Alright, so I'm going to go through our lunging process slash session with you guys one step at a time and how I go through it with my boys. So first we're going to start out with Rio, and first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do some flexing. So in this way what we're going to do is we're going to tighten one side a bit more than the other, and we want to put a loose side on so that the bit doesn't come through. But as you can see, I'm just going to swing it in through the O-ring, and I'm going to clip it to the tightest ring, and this is really hard to do one-handed, so I had to hold my phone with my chin. And then I'm just going to take the other part and I'm going to loop it up through here and do it pretty high, not all the way to the top. And this is going to force him to flex his neck to the side. And it's not painful, it's just like a really good stretch to really loosen him up and have him give in to the bit. And the reins are elastic, so whenever he pulls on it, it's stretchy, and so when he gives in, it gives in. So it's like it kind of rewards him for doing what he's supposed to do. We also don't do this for too terribly long. And it's fine if he's walking in circles. I would rather have that than him backing up. So after that, we're going to change sides, and the first thing that you do when you're going to change sides is you loosen up the side that's tight. You always do that first, that way it gives them some relief. And obviously, it would be really hard to tighten the other side if we did not loosen one side first. And y'all really don't understand how hard it is to do this one-handed, and when I put it on my chin, it's really hard for me to tell where I'm putting the video camera. So I'm sorry that I did not get this very well, but trust me, I got it. Now that we're done with the flexing, I'm going to loosen this up on this side, not all the way like I had before. It's still going to be a little bit tight because now we're going to start a little bit of walking. So I'm just going to loosen this one up to about the third or fourth one. And so in this way I have to make both sides even, because what we're going to do is we're just going to warm up by walking around the arena at a tight but still not super tight collection. Once again, this is extremely difficult to do one-handed. You guys have no idea. And my hands are really small. Oh, and yeah, so. The one thing about doing surcingle training as opposed to being on him and using my hands to collect him and to make him soften to the bit is that instead of him fighting with me, where I might not always be consistent, this is him fighting himself, and it's more consistent. In that way, it actually is better for him and more comfortable, and it just works way better. Now, the one thing about lunging in this way with a surcingle is, like people, horses do not know how to naturally walk correctly. You know, as human beings, we don't necessarily stand up straight with our shoulders back like we're supposed to, even though it's good for our backs. It's the same thing with horses. So this is an exercise that's basically teaching them how to hold themselves so that they walk stronger and have less problems later in life. And as you can see, we're just walking around, very casual. He is giving in a little bit to it, but he doesn't have to pull his head in that much because it's not that tight at all. He has a short neck, so it can be a little bit shorter than most. Then I'm going to turn him around and make him go the other direction after a certain period of time, just making sure that both sides are even. So I have a timer on my phone that I set to make sure that he gets the same amount of work both directions with each exercise. Once we are done with the even on both sides, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tighten one side, not as much as I did with the flexing, but fairly close. And this is called counterbending. And so what this is going to do is I'm going to make him walk with his head turned towards the fence, and this is really going to help him loosen up. This will help him more so than having both of them even. And in this, we're going to trot because we really want to push him up into the bit, and we really want to see a good reaction with his head. You can see how it kind of dips down. Every time he tucks his nose in and pushes his top of his head forward, that is him giving in to the bit. See right there? That is what we want to see. So when I first start him in the trot, I start him very fast and really push him up into it, and as soon as he starts giving in, I kind of slow my body movement down to give him a more comfortable trot to where he can kind of relax a bit. It's as a reward that he's doing what I want him to do. Then I'll turn him around and we'll go the other direction. Now this way can sometimes be tricky because it's pulling him in, so he will try to cut into the circle, but I really work hard to try to keep him out on the edges of the arena. Then after I've done both sides, I'm going to switch the reins. So I'm going to loosen the rein that was tightened, and then I'm going to tighten the other side, and we're going to do the same thing just on the other side. So he'll be counterbending on the left instead of the right side. It's always really confusing to get started, especially when they haven't been doing it that long, and even though he's been doing it now for about a solid week, he is so much better than he was when he started, but sometimes it's still crazy. Then we're going to turn him around and make him go the other way. Same thing. As you can see, I use my body to make him respond more so than even the rope that I'm using to make him go. And this is because you can use your body for a lot of things, and that's what horses communicate with. Now that we're done with the counterbending, what we're going to do is we're going to even out the reins so that they are both pulling evenly. They're both tightened evenly, and this is just going to get him used to having pressure from both hands. This is especially good for Rio as he's getting older because he is susceptible to having sway back, and this will help prevent it later in life. Once we're done going both directions at a trot with both sides tightened, we're finally ready to walk down. So with this, I loosen it to the loosest it possibly can be, and then I just let him walk around the arena. Sometimes he gets confused and will try to trot even though I'm telling him to walk, and when he does that, all I do is really slow my walk down, really back off the pressure, and just tell him easy. You can't tell it really well, but he is very sweaty. Now, one thing that I have taught Rio is that when we say whoa and I turn my back, he is supposed to walk up to my back. It's called joining up. And so as you can see, that is what he did right here. I was so very happy with him. It's something we've really been working on. As you can see, there are plenty of sweat marks where he got a good workout, on top of the fact that it is freaking hot as crap now. So what I'm gonna do is fill a bucket of water that I'm cleaning out right now, and I'm just gonna see if he wants a drink, and then I'll use the rest of it that he doesn't drink, because I can promise you that if he drinks any, it's not gonna be that much. The rest of it will go over his body so that he will cool down, and he will definitely appreciate it. You know the old saying, you can take a horse to water but you can't make him drink? That is a very legitimate thing. Horse owners understand. It is hard to get a horse to drink. I mean, it's really weird because he is obviously really hot and sweaty, but he will not drink it just because I give it to him. And it's not because he won't drink out of a water bucket, because I have gotten him to drink it before. They're just weird. Then I'm going to use my sweat scraper to get all the excess water off, because that can cause issues on their skin. And then he'll be all done. All right, I'm gonna warn you right now, Buddy's session is a lot more rough. Now, he has not done this that much, so it's gonna look a lot worse just because he's not used to it and I'm not used to how he handles it. But we're gonna go through the same process just as we did with Rio. Now, one thing about Buddy is he definitely has a longer neck. So when I'm doing this, it's going to be a lot more different where I put the levels, as well as the fact that he holds his neck or his head really low, so I have to prop it up a bit for him to tuck it the correct way. So we're going to start with the flexing. One side's going to be super loose, the other side is going to be a bit tighter. And this is still very difficult to do with one freaking hand. There's definitely no science behind it. Not every two horses are the same, and you have to do them differently. So as you can see, I'm playing around with how much I want to pull it, and as you can see, Buddy doesn't even look like it's as tight, even though he has a longer neck. And sweet Rio had a good workout. He's just watching us. I think he's just too tired to leave. As you can see, Buddy's kind of chewing on the bit, kind of pulling, yawning. He's just feeling it out, trying to see what I really want from him. And it's kind of frustrating for him to a certain degree, especially since this is new for him. So I just have to be patient. All right, we're gonna loosen the one side and start on the next side. Good gracious, this is so hard to do one-handed. I mean, goodness. But at least I know I can do it with one hand. This is frustrating, very frustrating. And it's hot. All right, now we'll flex this side. He looks like he's so excited about this, I know. Once we're done with our flexing, we're gonna do as we did before. We're gonna loosen this up a bit and then even out both sides and walk around to get warmed up. And not warmed up as in we're cold, because it's freaking hot out here. The struggle is real, y'all. I'm so sorry. This was really hard to do. I'm so glad I have two very patient, good boys. They are very forgiving of their horse mom. So now we're just gonna go in both directions, just walking, just to get warmed up. Now, Buddy's session is much shorter than Rio's. And as you can see, he's already kind of like, okay, do you want me to trot? But then I just slow down, and just say easy. The only reason I'm even flipping my rope at him is because he keeps wanting to come cut corners, and I'm just trying to push him out. Not hit him with it, just kind of signal that he needs to move out a bit. He's also really funny about turns. For some reason, he likes to race me if I'm trying to get ahead of him to make him turn. And so then when he does turn, it's super dramatic. Now, one thing about this exercise for Buddy is it's going to really help strengthen his back too and help him use his back legs more. And altogether, exercise is always good for his knee. Now, one thing with learning in a surcingle is that horses can sometimes get confused on what whoa is, even though they might know it before with free lunging. So it takes a minute to get them to stop if they're not used to it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten the one side and do some trotting, the counter bending with Buddy. And as you can see, it's a little bit rough. It's much more rough than Rio's was, and that is to be expected when it's something fairly new for a horse. So I try to just relax. I try to teach him, be patient. But at the same time, the one big thing with this surcingle is that when you're trying to get a horse to go forward, they can get confused with the bit in their mouth and have been known to rear. So it's safer to kind of push them forward as opposed to letting them rear, because if they fall, they can break their backs. So it's just important when you're doing this to be careful and be patient, but also to be ready to push them for their safety. Once again, you can see where he's kind of racing me to turn. I don't know why he does this. I don't know if he just thinks that I'm trying to get him to go faster when I cut across like that, but he does. Now another thing you'll notice is he's really cutting in much more than Rio was, and this counter bend is towards the inside, and the reason is because he's really not used to this, so I'm trying to be a little bit easy with him. Now we're going to switch sides and go the other way. As you can see, he gets a little bit better at the turns later on as he's starting to get used to it and realizing what I'm asking for. Still cutting in when that counter bend is towards the inside. And as you can see, I'm trying to push him out in that counter bend with my body and going up to his shoulder. And that's how you get them to actually push away from you, is to put pressure towards their body. Then after trotting him around with both sides evenly tightened, I'm going to loosen them both and have him walk around on the loosest rein. And as you can see, barely. He is sweaty, but it's not nearly as noticeable as Rio's was. So I'm going to do the same with him. I'm going to fill up a bucket of water and see if he'll drink any, and whatever he doesn't drink, he's getting poured on his body to cool him off. And once I'm done with this sweat scraper, he's good to go join Rio in the pasture.
Holy crap. It's one of those giant freaking turtles. The turtle is like huge. Go on, little turtle. Go. Go. Get across the way. I don't think you are a box turtle. Go.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe. And yes, I did get the turtle out of the road eventually when I realized he wasn't going to go off on his own. And don't forget, be brave, be brave. See you next time, guys.